All right, this is the 78 podcast. Thanks for stopping by. I do appreciate it very much. An extension of stories from the 78 website. Go on there. I post almost every single day a new story about something going on in Chicago or wherever I travel. Like, for example, today I do this podcast like a week ahead of time. So today I posted a story about going to Detroit, Michigan and spending a week there, or spending a couple days there, but I did about 5 days worth of stories when I was there. So that's what I do here on this podcast. I kind of talk about behind the scenes stuff. And the first thing I want to talk about is the new 1901 project. And that is a story that I put up on the site. It is what the United Center plans to do with the surrounding parking lots and the folks that own the United Center, which is the Wirtz family that owns the Blackhawks and the Reinsdorfs that own the Bulls and the Chicago White Sox. It's a weird situation, not what they're doing at the United Center. That looks beautiful. I think it's about $7 billion. They're building a 6,000 person music entertainment venue. They're building parks on top of like retail. They're building a hotel. It looks beautiful. I mean, I'm not going to lie, which is funny. My 12-year-old son goes, but are they going to do anything to the United Center? Which is a good question because I didn't see anything about, are they going to update the United Center? I imagine they will. Not that it needs it. The United Center is a pretty beautiful facility. And it's, it's about 30 something years old. It's not new anymore. It was the crown jewel of the NBA and the NHL for a long time. One of the bigger venues. But it just needs a little TLC on the outside. I think, look brand new again. I mean, it's a stunning venue. And with this surrounding development called the 1901 project, this could be really something spectacular. $7 billion of private money to fund this thing, and it will bridge the gap. If you're familiar with Chicago, it will bridge the gap between the West Loop and the near West Side, which is where the United Center is, and it butts up against Austin neighborhood, Lawndale, Garfield Park, Douglas Park, the University Medical Campus over there. Kind of is going to fill all that in, and it's almost there as it is. They just opened the Morgan Station, or the Damon Station, I want to say. A new Green Line stop either way. And there's even talk of adding another Green Line stop like right outside the place, which is a freaking travesty that there hasn't been an L station outside of this place up until very recently, when the Blackhawks have been playing hockey in this location for almost 100 years. I think 1929 is when the Hawks started. And I'm sure the stadium was there prior because they used to do wrestling and all sorts of stuff back in the day there. I think they did rodeos. I mean, that'd be a good story to do something on the old Chicago stadium, because that place was called the Barn and it was called the Madhouse on Madison. 18,000, I think it sat in there. And I remember going to that place when I was a kid, and everything was red. Everything was painted red. The stairwells were painted red. You walk up and there was a layer of smoke right when you walked in the place. It smelled like popcorn, beer, and cigarettes. One of the best smells in the world if you're of a certain generation. But that's what the old Chicago Stadium smelled like. And I know it was a kind of a dump, but man, it was loud. And that's why I got the nickname Madhouse on Madison. They call the new UC Madhouse on Madison because it also can get very loud in there as well. But, with naming rights and the United Center being the United Center, Madhouse on Madison, they didn't want to confuse people. That's a true story. That's why they don't go out of their way to say Madhouse on Madison anymore, but they don't not acknowledge it. But that's neither here nor there. Anyhow, check that story out. It's a cool story. The renderings I have on the website there, where you can take a look at the different renderings of the entire campus. It poses a interesting conversation that $7 billion in private funds to make this thing happen. And the Bears are asking for $1 billion. I think the White Sox are asking or maybe the White Sox are asking for $1 billion. The Bears are asking for $2 billion for their ballparks, respectively. The White Sox, I don't think there's a chance in hell they're getting any money from the state, because they got money the first time for guaranteed rate. And they have bitched and moaned about that place since it opened, and they're the ones that designed it. So, yeah, and the Bears, probably the most popular franchise in Chicago sports, asking for $2 billion of public money. It's not going to happen either. They have to put up more money, basically, in the end, to make any of these things work, including, and especially with the Hawks. And weirdly enough, the Bulls, who are owned by the Reinsdorfs, that own the that own the White Sox, that own the Bulls, If they could put up $7 billion of private money for the hockey basketball arena, why can't they find some money to build out a proper ballpark that pays homage to the old Comiskey? Like, get your crap together. Come on. You know what I mean? Billionaires, like, it's just, I'm not a fan of giving billionaires free things. Like, if anything, if we're going to put up taxes for these things, then there should be free Chicago attendance day like every week, and there's a lottery where people get to go to these games for free. That's the only incentive I would say that would be fair if we have to foot the bill for these things. Otherwise, they should be privately funded because we have to pay full price for all these tickets anyway. I digress. So in River North, 20 years ago, if you're a fan of Dave Matthews, you've probably heard this story. Dave Matthews Band tour bus going across the Kinzie Street Bridge in River North area, Chicago. And for some reason, the tour bus driver's like, I'm going to load out a bunch of shit that was in the tour bus into the Chicago River, which is highly illegal, first of all. It's disgusting. And you're Dave Matthews Band. Like, you have money. You have lots of money. That's probably one of 5 tour buses that were driving through the city that day. Either way, they dumped all of their waste on the Kinzie Street Bridge. The thing that they never thought, there's somebody that was underneath the bridge. And I mean somebody as in a boat full of tourists that had human waste dump on them, 800 pounds of human waste. And I remember when it happened, they were talking to people, and the people that were on the boats at the time, they all said, like, they basically all either fainted or instantly threw up and kept throwing up because of what happened in the smell. Imagine 800 pounds of human waste that was in a boat in the summertime dumped on top of you. Like, oh God, that's awful. So there's a little homage to that. So the folks at Riot Fest a couple years ago, they posted a plaque on the Kinzie Street Bridge. So I snapped a photo of the plaque when it was up, and you can see it's very Riot Fest because it's held up to a zip tie. So it's fantastic. And they put a little bridge or a little plaque with a picture of the boat or the bus. I'm sorry. I mean, I'm having a day. And there's a little write-up about the entire thing. Fantastic. So check that out, too, because I have pictures of what the boat looked like when it was dumped 800 pounds of human waste on top of it. So there you go. I talked to a band from Highlands in Scotland, and they are called Elephant Sessions. They came to Chicago. They played in Forest Park. I did a fun little story with them while they're getting off their flight at O'Hare, getting stuck in traffic and the whole thing. Fun little story about these guys. It's definitely different kind of, it's not what you're expecting out of Scotland or the Highlands, but nonetheless, great story to check out. I highly suggest doing so. And I had a chance to go over to the opening of Seoul Taco in Lakeview. And this is over at the old Big and Little spot that's on Belmont Avenue. And this place, it's Korean and Mexican fused food. It's a fusion, right? And it's bougie and it's wonderful. I mean, it is awesome. I had the steak taco. So if you like Korean barbecue or you like steak, Korean, the way they do their steak, you're going to love the burrito that they have at Seoul Taco. It's phenomenal. And this, which is a great story in itself, because this brick and mortar storefront restaurant started off as a food truck. I believe Chef David Choi was from St. Louis, moved to Chicago, did the food trucks thing. This is the 4th location, and it's in a great spot. And it's about time something else went in the Big and Little spot there in Lakeview, because it was kind of just sad, like these restaurants that come on so strong and then they just forget how to spend money or never knew how to spend money, and the investor money ran out and they closed the restaurants. So I highly suggest going there. There's a little write-up on that. You remember the American Pie movies? I'm sure you do. So you remember Kevin? He was like Tara Reid's love interest in the movie. His name was Kevin. His real name is Thomas Ian Nicholas. And I just hit the computer. Sorry. He was in town, and I've worked with Thomas from my days at WGN. And he is a interesting dude, man. He is on the road probably 180 days out of the year. What he does is he goes on the road Thursday, Friday, Saturday, comes home Sunday. He's home Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, goes on the road again. That's what he does, rinse and repeat. And he's got great stories, though, man. Like, fantastic stories. He's a really nice guy, and he loves music, and he plays all over the country. He does really well in Chicago because of the movie Rookie of the Year. He was the little kid in Rookie of the Year who had like the slingshot arm. That's Thomas Ian Nicholas, and he goes by Tom, but stage name Thomas Ian Nicholas, or Thomas Nicholas Band, as he plays with his band. But he plays acoustic here in Chicago. He was at the Athenaeum Theater in Lakeview, which is on Southport Avenue, just south of Diversey, I believe, next to this old beautiful church. And this theater space is built in 1911, and it's beautiful. It's like a hidden gem in Chicago. And I know Thomas played there. He had a couple other bands that played there. But if you have a minute, I highly suggest going to the page, because we talked for about a good 15 minutes interview right there at the theater. We did a little tour, talked about his career with American Pie, and he mentioned that they're probably they're interested in making an American Pie 5, and they are interested in getting the cast back together for the original cast. So that's Jason Biggs, that's Eugene Levy, perhaps. It's also Thomas Ian Nicholas, Tara Reid, forgot the other actors' names off the top of my head, but either way, it's a lot of fun, right? And like I said, he's a great storyteller. So if you want to hear about the music industry and the movie industry, he's like comparable to like the way Bruce Springsteen sings or Dave Grohl kind of sings. He's kind of that raspy, good storyteller voice. A lot of fun though. And he's a cool dude, and I like supporting cool people. That's what this whole site's about. And he reached out to me. He had my number. He asked me if I wanted to do something. We ended up doing something for CBS Morning News in Chicago here. And then we also did something for the site after that was done, and because I've known him for like 16 years. So fun story. Something that happened in Chicago that's really cool. I feel like it's just such a Chicago thing. They have this thing called Titan Walls, and it's Chicago's largest mural festival. And that's what it is. It's at District Brew Yards, which is in like West Town area. They have like this big parking lot, and it's like an old industrious area, not really so much anymore, but it was full. There's a lot of brick walls is what I'm getting at. A lot of brick walls everywhere, because all the buildings were like these one-story, really large, wide buildings. Well, District Brew Yards is one of those old buildings. And District Brew Yards is a place where you go to different, you go inside and you can go and type in the kind of beer you want. And it can give you all different kinds of beer, and it's self-pour. It does it all through the credit card. It's actually a really cool and fun idea. So the festival, though, started by folks that wanted to just brighten up the community and bring a little love to the community, because it was kind of, gross back in the day. It was really gritty and dirty. And with the festival, they have the entire area, and they have Altitude Trampoline Park right by it. They have all these murals now, and they've put them up for the last few years, and they're awesome, man. Like, if you love street art, this stuff is like legit stuff. This isn't like a kindergarten project. This is like legit stuff. They have like cherry pickers where these guys are on, and they're painting. It took them like a week and a half to paint some of these that are right out in front of District Brew Yards, which shares the parking lot with Altitude. And Altitude has a big giant mural on theirs. I don't know. It's just a great event. Very family friendly. And District Brew Yards, yes, they serve beer, but it's a friendly vibe, family friendly vibe. And they really want people to know that about them. And I think it's just a cool event in general. It was a cool thing to do on like the most perfect weekend in Chicago, that also had Metallica playing at Soldier Field and the Air and Water Show. And it was like 80 degrees and sunny. It was the kind of weather you go, this is why we suffer through March kind of weather. And not to say that March isn't great. It is great if you like to eat inside and do things inside. It's wonderful. March is a great time of year to be here. But Chicago's never short of great food, and that's the month I would suggest people to explore food options. February, March. April's opening day, so you got baseball back and a whole thing. But Titan Walls, check it out. You'll see the artwork in real time when they're doing it. It's a fun story. And the last story that I did of the week outside of posting the podcast was the Blue Moon Tarot and Sound Bath event at the Gwen Hotel. And the Gwen's right there downtown. It's connected to the shops of Northbridge, right there at Michigan Avenue. And I got my tarot card read, right? And after I talked to Emily, who does the sound bath, and which is really cool. It's like if you're into spirituality and chilling out and vibing and you're cleansing your chakra and all of that stuff, this is for you. And they do this stuff, I think, on a monthly basis. They do on one of their terrace rooftop decks. It's beautiful views, and you can see all those views out there. Although on the day I was there, of course, it was kind of rainy out, so it kind of looked ominous with the clouds hanging really low over the city and stuff like that. But it's still cool. But what I really want to tell you about is the tarot cards. So I had her pull my cards right there when we were doing the video, right? And I told her the things I needed to tell her, and it's all in the video. But one of the things was like, you have a new start. There's something new. There's something worth celebrating in your life. It's coming up, and so many people are happy. Well, it turns out my wife is expecting, and this woman didn't know this. And as I was getting towards the end of the interview, we went through some other cards, and we were reiterating there's going to be a lot of stuff happening this year, positive things for me, which hopefully, a year from now, I'll have, 1 million subscribers and 1 million views and the whole thing. And that's where this is all about. But either way, I have a baby girl coming in November. And as we were talking about the end, she pulled another card. It's like, yeah, they're just reiterated, like, this is so exciting. This is so fun. And then when she said something else, then like a glass broke on the table. Gust of wind came, knocked over glasses of champagne. And she looked, she wasn't startled. And I was like, oh, is that not a good sign? She's like, no, it's a great sign. It's like Mazel Tov from the spiritual realm. So I don't know. It was a fun thing. If you want to see that, it's right there on the website, Blue Moon Tarot and Sound Bath at the Gwen. It's a fun event that I suggest that you check out, and happy to be part of that, and also just part of Chicago, man. So I'm going to post a couple stories in the coming weeks about Detroit, because I took a little vacation to Detroit, which is a rad town, man. Like, if you haven't been there in, I would say, the last 5 years, you're kind of missing out on a city that's being completely reborn once again. Not that it's dead, but parts of it were. And I checked out some really cool places. So that's coming up next week. I appreciate you watching. Tell your friends, tell your teachers, your grandma. I'll take whatever I can get, man. But storiesfromthe78.com is the website. Subscribe on the YouTube page and on the Spotify or wherever you're watching this and listening to it now. I appreciate it very much. Until then, I'll see you later. Take care.